Hey y'all, I just made some whipped strawberry butter, and before I taste it, I'm gonna have to make some homemade biscuits. Those two things just sound like they go together, and I'm craving a hot biscuit. So this is part 2 of my whipped strawberry butter video, just so that I'll have something to taste it with. To make biscuits, I just use self-rising flour. I like Martha White, but use whatever kind of self-rising flour you like. I don't recommend the store brand, I just think it's tough. Martha White and a couple of others just seem more tender to me. I've started with about 3 cups, roughly 2.5 to 3 cups of self-rising flour in my bowl. And to that 2.5 or 3 cups of self-rising flour, I'm going to add almost a whole stick of butter. I'm just gonna take just a little bit off of it to grease my pan. I am gonna bake these in a cast iron skillet tonight. It makes a crispier biscuit, but a baking sheet will work just fine. I have this cutter that my mom gave me years and years ago, and I do love to use it. And by the way, I'm using cold butter. I do love to use it to cut my butter into my flour. You could use a pastry cutter. You could use a couple of knives crisscrossed in either direction, back and forth. Some people use their hands, but I think if you use your hands, you will have to have softened butter. And I just think you need cold butter to make these biscuits have the right texture. I'll just cut this in to the flour until it's the size of small peas. Maybe a little smaller than that. It'll look just like that. I think one reason why homemade biscuits taste so good is because they just remind me of home. Does that make sense? I grew up eating homemade biscuits. My mom made them every day. My mother-in-law made them every day when I first got married, and every time we went to her house, she always had homemade biscuits on the table, even at supper time. And they just remind me of all the good things of my life as far as food goes. And homemade biscuits are so easy to make. If you've never made them before, I hope that you will take this as your sign to try. A lot of people say that frozen biscuits taste just as good, but I would argue that's only because you've never had a really good homemade biscuit before. It's hard to say exactly how much milk I use because I don't measure, and I'm sorry for that. If you're gonna try this, I would suggest you start with about 2.5 cups of flour, all but that little small piece of butter that I'm going to use to butter my skillet, and then roughly a cup of buttermilk. Maybe start out with 3/4 of a cup as I did, just pour some in slowly. And then you'll know you have the right amount when you have a wet dough that looks like that. I'm gonna take my butter wrapper and I'm just going to rub that little piece of butter all over my skillet to make sure they don't stick. Now, if you wanna roll out your dough, you can do that. You can turn this dough out onto a floured surface and cut them out with a cookie cutter, or in my case, with that same circular cutter. That's the way my mom did it. But my mother-in-law pinches a little piece of dough off and rolls it with her hands. And that's just the way I do it too. Just form a small ball like that. Put it in your skillet and gently pat the top. You don't have to pat it down at all if you like a really fluffy biscuit. Obviously, the more you pat it down, the thinner your biscuit will be. Some people in my family like a flatter biscuit. Some people like a fluffier biscuit. So I usually do a little of each. Continue flouring your hand in between. Form a ball and put it in the skillet. You wash my hands and I'll show you the finished, well, the almost finished product. These are going in a 450-degree oven. I'm gonna bake them until they're golden brown. It'll probably take about 15 minutes, but I'll time them and let you know. Our biscuits are ready, and don't they look delicious? Oh, I left the light on in my pantry. Don't look at that. I don't always turn them out onto a plate, but I thought that was the right thing to do to show you. I don't know why, I just turned them out onto a plate. Be easier to separate them, how about that? Okay, I turned off the light and shut the door of my pantry. My daughter told me I needed to. She loves it when I say things like that. Look at that biscuit. Now, since this is part 2, and since this is the reason that I had to make biscuits in the first place, I shouldn't, but I'm going to. Well, it's okay that I don't like strawberries because I like whipped strawberry butter. It's delicious. Of course it is. And you need to eat it on a hot homemade biscuit. Please try it and let me know that you did. Okay, y'all, go have a good day.